Hi, everyone, and welcome to week 4 of Financial Foundations. We're in June, and we're talking about investments. And Elian Levatino, my buddy,
Hi,
partner
good
at
to see ya.
Benchmark, COO
COO maybe?
of Benchmark.
We don't really care about titles here too much.
Yeah. But anyway, this is Elian, and he's joining us to talk about investing today. Specifically, what is compound interest, how to take advantage of it, and what can you as an investor expect as a reasonable return on your investment? And Elian, you're going to kick us off
Yeah,
with
I'll do that
compound
one.
interest. Okay.
I'll try to make this really simple because this doesn't have to be a complicated topic. Compound interest is earning over earning. So let's say you put in $100 and it grows to $110. That I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if it grows from $100 to $110, you can take that $10 out and go do whatever you want to with it. Or you can leave that $10 in and let it grow so that the next year, the original $100 is growing, the new $10 is growing, and then hopefully all that grows together and it will compound on itself. And it's compounding interest. And so I obviously I get all my facts from the internet, and the internet is absolutely 100% true all the time. I even read somewhere that Abraham Lincoln invented the internet. So when you when you go on the internet and start looking at quotes that are attributed to people, you aren't really 100% sure. But I hear Albert Einstein has a quote attributed to him that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. And so if Albert Einstein said it, it's probably true.
You can't disagree with him.
Yeah, he might have
He's
something figured
smart.
out. Yeah.
What a Okay, talk about time in
Yeah.
relation to compound interest and how big a factor that is.
Well, the biggest thing to remember to benefit from compounding interest is number one, be patient. Rather than taking that $10 out that grew, leaving it in there and letting it grow on itself. And two is giving it time to do that. Obviously, the longer amount of time the money is in there, you're going to get more compound interest on all of that growth. So continuing to put in your $100 regularly and letting that new $100 grow with the old $100, with the old interest, with the old earnings, with the new earnings. Now you start to see the snowball effect of growth. So you can shoot yourself in the foot by taking out the earnings or taking out the original $100, but keeping it in there, letting it grow, giving it some time, and being patient, even during the downturns. Being patient during the downturns, putting in a new $100 even during the downturns, because now you're buying it at a discount, and the new $100 is going to be growing even more so than the old $100, and you start seeing a pretty significant benefit if you can be patient and give it some time.
Do you need some time to look at the notes to give us an idea of the difference between a 25-year-old, 35-year-old, 45-year-old? Because I can tell a somewhat related story to give you a chance to brush up on that if you need to.
No, yeah, we got the notes right here. The actual numbers of if you were to make 5% in the market, I gave it a 10%. But if you were to make 5% in the market at age 25, in order to get to $1 million by age 60, you would have to put in $880 a month. At age 35, you would have to put in $1,679 a month. At age 45,
like between 35 and 60?
yes, between
Okay.
35 and 60, and then between 45 and 60, you would have to put in $3,741 a month to make that work. So you can see the later you start, the more you have to put in on a monthly basis. The earlier you start, the less you would have to put in on a monthly basis because, again, the compounding interest over that longer amount of time is going to be beneficial to you.
I'll still tell my somewhat related
All right,
story
go
because it's
for
on my mind. I remember an exercise when I was 7 or 8, and it was part of a book my grandma
Mhm.
gave me. But the idea was,
I think we
hey,
did something similar.
was it have to do with pennies? Like you put a penny in
Yeah,
the first
yeah.
time. The idea was challenge yourself to save money this month. And there were 30 slots where you could tuck in pennies into the slots. And day 1, you had to put in 1 penny. And every day you had to double the pennies that were
Mhm.
before it. So on day 2, you had to take 2 pennies in there, blah, 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 blah. Well, the point is that that's impossible to do because if you did that all the way through day 30, you would have ended up with like $1 million
Mhm.
or something. And that was my first taste of compound interest. And weird as it sounds, that really stuck with me to show the effect of that the growth on the growth, so to speak.
Well, and I think if you get a hold of your kids when they're young, even in high school when they start working, and letting them know the numbers that if they start at 18 and start putting in $100 a month, they'd be surprised how quickly they become millionaires too,
Mhm.
based on average rates of return inside the market. You don't even have to get 20, 30, 40% a year to make that happen. Reasonable rates of return where $100 a month to somebody at age 18, your kids can end up being millionaires at a very young age if they stay disciplined and they get started early.
Speaking of reasonable rate of return, what does that look like? And to some extent, that's like asking, well, how long will it take me to drive from Boston to Los Angeles? There's a lot of different factors involved because that's a really long way.
If you go with my family, it's going to take longer because we stop and go to the bathroom about every 15 minutes.
Yeah, I have small children, so we're the same way. And I drive a minivan. It's awesome, but it's not super fast. So that has an impact on it too. Are there construction delays? How often are you going to get hungry? Do you take the interstate or are you going to take back roads? There's a lot of different ways to ask that question, and it depends on who's driving and how you want to get from Boston to LA. In a similar vein, for a reasonable rate of investing, you have to factor in what your risk tolerance is. When are you starting? How much money do you have to apply toward the growth? But if we take an average of the S&P 500 over the last, 100 years or so, however long it's been around, we get around 8 or 9%. So if you were to plunk money into a vehicle that captures the wide US market and you go back that far, somewhere between the 8 and 10% range is probably reasonable.
And the reason there's a range there is because it depends on who you ask and how it's
Mhm.
calculated. Are you reinvesting dividends? Are you reinvesting additional cash flow? I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to calculate it, which is why there's a range there.
Right.
Don't want anybody to get confused on that part.
But average is a keyword.
Yeah.
There's going to be stretches of that where
Yeah.
you're going to go much faster and get a lot more growth. And there's going to be stretches where there's an accident that's clogging up the highway and you got to kind of sit still for a while. I'm mixing analogies now, but
No, yeah, I was with you. You
Yeah.
nailed it. That was great.
anything else to add, Elliot?
No, we want to make this simple, sweet. This is Financial Foundations. Come see us if you want to get more in the weeds and the nitty gritty, and we're happy to help.
Thank you for joining us, y'all. Have a good one.
See ya. Bye.